Hi there. Welcome to Tech Talk Weekly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is our weekly show where we give you 4 interesting news stories, get you on your way in about 20 minutes. Today we have real hardcore science that sounds like science fiction. Wait till you see this. And my guest today is Renette from North Regional Library. How are you doing today?
Hi, Bob. I'm doing great. How are you?
Things are good. Things are feeling really good for me. We've had some good issues out here, and I just fixed a streaming issue live on stream, so that was a good feeling. And maybe it died again. Oh well. If you're watching us on Facebook, or you think you're supposed to be watching us on Facebook, I'm getting errors off of the Facebook stream right now, so we'll figure that out in a minute. But we're going to keep on going with the show because we know what we're doing. Renette, tell us about North Regional Library. What do you do there, and what's going on?
So, North Regional Library is a unique location in that we're located on a college campus. So we have college students coming in, and then we have an elderly population also nearby. So we're getting like a bunch of diverse population coming in. Currently, I work as an office support specialist. So I make schedules such as schedules for who's on the reference desk for adult and youth. I also go ahead and if we're having events, I do event planning. I call vendors to make sure they want to participate in our event. I also do submit some paperwork if we're having vendors that are being paid through the county, and I do reading.
All the general stuff that makes the library actually work.
Yeah.
Renette's one of those people we all depend on to make sure that our lives actually go on and we can do all this program. Like she just said, all the programming, all the things. You want to know why Kelly's on the desk right now? Ask Renette. She'll tell you. But we have some interesting stories. We always have interesting stories. But this first one I like a lot because the eclipse was last week. Everybody thinks, okay, no, we're done with stars and we're done with space stuff. Ha, there's always going to be cool space stuff on this show. Plus, this is a meteor shower that you can see from anywhere on the planet. Not like some of them that are only available in the northern hemisphere or only in the southern hemisphere or something like that. This one is available anywhere you are on the planet. You can go out and watch these meteors stream overhead. It's going to be great. Did you catch the timing for this one though, Renette?
Yeah, it's a nice like 6 day. It's a multiple day event, which is
cool. Now, part of the trick to this is, so the Lyrids are from April 14th, so just starting in another day or two, and it runs all the way through the end of April, but the peak is next week in the 22nd or so, and it's around midnight, our time. And so if you're here in the eastern United States, it's about midnight our time, and it is going to be gorgeous. Now, if you're farther north than South Florida, you may see more meteors than you would down here. And of course, like all of these instances, you want to be out in a spot away from light pollution and where you can actually see the night sky clearer and things. What's your area like around midnight?
We have it's a city area, so I would have to like travel just a little bit.
Yeah, I have to travel out west. Yeah, I go out west towards the Sawgrass, out towards the Everglades a little bit. And it's about 7 miles west of where I am, and I can go out there and just see just about everything, if you're lucky. Of course, it's going to be midnight, which is why this is an amazing meteor shower for South Florida, because it's not too hot, it's not too cold. And remember I mentioned Montreal, because Montreal is one of the peak spots for this. Let me tell you the weather in Montreal this weekend, Renette. It's going to have a high of 49 and a low of 34 degrees.
Freezing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not traveling to Montreal. No. I'd much rather see fewer meteors and not freeze.
We don't have the gear to survive.
Yeah. So if you're up there in Canada, please write us and tell us if you see any meteors and how cold it was when you went out there to do this at midnight. It's no, just not me. And we also have the weirdest segue probably for anyone. We have another story about Canada. It's the All Canada. It's not the All Canada, but it's a close to a Canada edition. Do you use a DVR from? Do you have a physical DVR, or do you use your cable/streaming DVR, Renette?
I would say cable/streaming DVR.
Okay. So, I was a original TiVo member where I was part of their beta testing and then had a device for 18 years, whatever. It was a long time. So I was used to having a physical device in my house where my recordings were stored. It was there. I would never have thought this could happen to me. Let me make sure. It's Bell Canada, which is one of the big streaming cable providers. That's a key thing. They're not streaming, they're cable. And they provided cloud-based DVR to all of their customers. And one of the things that they were told, that everyone was told, was they would have full control over all of your recordings, and you could keep them for up to a year. How upset would you be, Renette, if I told you, oh, by the way, tomorrow we're cutting it down to only 60 days?
I'd be on the line speaking to a representative right away.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we're not going to reduce your bill at all either. We're just going to take away 3/4 of a year's worth of recordings from you, and we're going to give you 3 weeks. I believe they're going to give you 3 weeks to figure out how or what you're going to do with any of that content, and then it's gone.
In addition, further recordings will be limited to how much time you can view it.
Yeah. So I can just picture stories out there of people who have saved something because you're waiting for, all 7 seasons, 8 seasons of a series. So you can just binge watch the entire thing all at once. Or maybe somebody you care about was on TV or did a live performance somewhere and you kept it on a DVR and you wanted to go back and watch that. And now just because it's older, you're going to lose it automatically. I'm just, I don't know. How do you save any of your media?
Most of the time I do over the cloud. I do like House MD, so I'm trying to rewatch that.
That's cool.
Yeah, so finding resources to have it is quite challenging, but I have to do like streaming for it.
Yeah. Now, you're just used to the idea of you're going to go find it on a stream somewhere. You're not going to save it and then go back and watch it.
I prefer to save it just so I can have it, like if I'm introducing it to someone who hasn't seen it, they can easily access.
How do you do that? What do you use for that?
Usually I could download it and put it on like a hard drive or something.
Yeah. There you go. So you're back to the old style stuff that I used to do.
Yeah.
See, there we go, people. That's how we're just paying $10 a month to have it restricted to 2 months worth of saving of doing it. It's just a crazy, crazy thing. And I wish that there was, I know I'm ranting about this story, and it bugs me most because they're taking away so much. This isn't a thing of, well, anyone who signs up for our service in the future is only going to get 60 days. This is, we're taking away all the stuff that everybody did all along. And this is a tech story because this is what most people have to do nowadays. Because, like you just said, if you can't find it on streaming, if you didn't save it on your hard drive, it's just gone.
Or the hard drive corrupts, it's gone.
Yeah. Which is kind of going, I know for the older people in the audience, I know that's how it used to be. We used to not be able to save anything or see it, or you just had to hope that it was ever going to come back on TV. The annual time when Wizard of Oz would come on TV. We're past that time now. We are supposed to be living in the future, and it's not quite the future we wanted. And another future that I do not want. Now, you thought this. Tell me, you read this story.
Yes.
Tell me what you thought about this one, Renette.
So the author, he made this big jump, which I kind of didn't think made sense. So he said we are in, like, our freedom of thought. We don't really have freedom of thought because we're influenced by other people. But even with us being influenced, we still have the final say on what decisions we make, because we can go ahead and change our mind. We can get more information from other people. Versus if you go on the logic that the author was doing, if you automatically are influenced, then having a chip influence you wouldn't be a big deal because you already influenced by people around you.
And so what they're talking, one of the things they're talking about in this article, this is from The Conversation, by the way. We've used this website here on the show several times. And it's always in the show notes for you. So you can go back and read up and catch on all these on your own. But basically, the idea is coming that how do your thoughts right now develop? How do you create new, what are you thinking? Why are you thinking it and such? And how are you, as Renette just said, how are you influenced by, the things around you for why and how you're thinking? And then as we start moving into those brain chip interfaces, and we've talked about those on the show here over the last couple of years as they've been slowly getting better and trying things out. Neuralink is one that's in the news recently because one person has been able to really to have that implanted and starting to work. And even with that, we still don't have any information about who owns the information going over that Neuralink chip.
Yeah, and what insights are being deduced from that information.
Yeah. So we've talked about this on the show before of you can use an fMRI machine to scan someone's brain as they're thinking, and kind of we're in the very beginning stages of figuring out what they're thinking about. This is a good, where do you think this should go, Renette? I've said on the show before where I think. I want to hear from you. Where do you think people should be going with this?
I think people who have like MS or conditions that kind of make them paralyzed or lose brain function, this will be really good for.
But what about who should be in control of it?
That's the thing. I also think even with the implementation, if it were implanted in people, like the patient still should have the right to remove or change their mind in the future. It wouldn't be like a permanent thing.
Well, that's part of the problem is once you put it into the brain, you can't really take it out.
Or
it's part of our problem.
Disabling processes probably.
Yeah.
You can't take it out then.
Yeah. Disabling or just being in control of the data, having the authority to be in control of who can see the data, what they can do with the data, et cetera, and stuff like that. Not just signing off on this as a permanent thing. Like here, this private company now has full control over whatever I was thinking at every time, anytime, all the information that was pumped out over this chip.
Yeah, and that's the scary part.
Yeah. And it's getting there. And I know this sounds like a science fiction story. This is not the science fiction story we're about to talk about. But it is one of those things where we all complain right now about AI and why aren't there rules in place and how come people are doing this? And it's because people knew this was coming and no one ever put laws or protections in place for people. It is obvious this is happening. This is coming really fast. And nobody seems to be making any effort to do this in the United States to protect us from ourselves in a way, because you know what's going to happen. Especially, can you imagine if you could just think and post to TikTok?
That wouldn't be a great idea.
It's going to be scary.
Yeah.
Everybody could just share their thoughts immediately and flat out like that without any thoughts. You can share your thought without any thought.
That's the whole point of having the brain. Like you're going to process it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're supposed to have a filter. Yeah. At least a small little one, right?
Yeah.
And our other science fiction story, which is actually talking about filters in a way, is this new Metafluid. And I, you when I showed you this story, Renette, the first words out of your mouth were, "What is a Metafluid?"
Yeah, because I tried looking it up. They had like a Wikipedia thing, but like getting more information on like what it specifically would do, there's nothing really that much out there.
Yeah, no. And you're right, there's not a lot out there because this is brand new. This is scientists at Harvard just published a paper earlier this week. First time ever anyone has ever done this to create a metafluid. So what metamaterials are things that can change their shape, their function based on some criteria. So the short, simple answer to what a metafluid is like is I could have like a small petri dish type filled with this fluid. I can add some pressure to it and it then becomes a convex lens. So now it becomes a camera lens. And I can release that pressure and now it becomes liquid again and it falls away. Yeah. That's science fiction in the real world working right now. Now, this is one of the things we always try and talk about on the show. These are things you can go out and use right now. This is a working, real thing. You can't go buy this. They need to figure out how to scale up the ability to create it, but it is created. It is working and it is done and changing the world. So there's a little video here we're going to show you. You can see how you can suddenly see through the liquid to see the logo underneath it by changing the pressure on the liquid. You can see how everything changes. There's nothing different about the liquid. They didn't raise or lower or do anything with that. No tricks of light. It's purely the pressure on the liquid. You're okay with that so far, Renette?
Yeah, my concern was like, or my questions that I had were, what would the liquid be used for? Is it going to be implemented into people, like, or any shots, or like making products?
So some of the things that I've seen, some of the ideas that I've seen they want to try with this, like the lens idea, because if you can do this correctly and then figure out how to make it smaller, you can make automatic lenses.
As in, like, I guess lenses.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for your glasses, the lenses would just automatically change based on what you need them to be.
Oh.
So by exerting a little bit of pressure on them, instead of being reading glasses, now you can see far away. And they become a telescope where you can go out and see, or binoculars, and you can see far away things. That's one idea behind these. Another one is sort of like that sample video there where you could make it a window and put pressure on it, and it's an opaque window that blocks out the sun. Release the pressure and now light can come through and you can see out the window. There are some really interesting things with it. What would you want to do with it?
I'm thinking of like the evil scientists where they do like biohacking or something like that.
Yeah. All the science fiction stories of yeah. This is not quite that Terminator thing where it's liquid metal, but it's different. Unfortunately, I'm afraid this might be something that we all love, but then and there we go. That's somebody right there was saying, just shake your camera to reset the lens on your camera. To be able to set up and do those things where it's small little round capsules, microscopic capsules that are in this liquid that allows it to happen. Can you think of something else that's small, micro in our water right now that we all have decided is a really bad thing?
The microplastics.
And now we want to introduce brand new liquid that's got micro things in it on purpose.
The longevity of the material that you're making.
Yeah. That's why this is such a cool story, because it's super cutting edge and people are understanding this time. Look, we can do some cool stuff, but we've got to be careful because we can't let this kind of stuff start polluting the rest of the world and everything like that. So It's going to be happening for us. It's going to take a little bit of time. But it's really cool. We have a fun future in front of us.
And then I guess another question I had probably be how much energy does it take to produce it?
Producing is a different issue. Using it takes almost no energy.
Okay.
It does take a little bit of energy to create those the idea of applying the pressure, but it's smaller than a micro. It takes much less energy than a microwave, stuff like that. So it's going to be really interesting, really fun for that. We're almost out of time, but I do want to highlight one quick story for everybody. Creation Station Science this Wednesday is our open house. So please show up at the North Lauderdale Library if you get a chance, 2:00 in the afternoon, grab some cookies, come and use a science project kit. And if you cannot make it to our Creation Station Science because you don't live in South Florida, I put a link in the show notes for one of our citizen science kits that's downloadable. Single page out of our library catalog to do noise in your neighborhood. You collect data about where the noise is in your neighborhood and upload it to help do science for noise pollution in your neighborhoods. Some fun stuff going on. And we're going to have a whole bunch more of those coming up. Let me put up our final slide. Thank you so much, Ms. Renette, for being here with us today. If there is a library or librarian you want to see featured on the show, reach out. Creation Station at Broward.org. And we'll see everybody next week.